What's up, Spreaker Radio? Live and direct. Let's bring that down a little bit. Yay. What's up? DOOMCAST number 17 about to happen, about to go down. Don't reinstall this. Oh, man. I'm trying to jam some music and... Come here. Internet. Come to me, internet. Ooh. Come on, you can do it.
I was a teenager.
Check. All right, good.
Looking for revolution. I had the style, I had the ambition. Read all the authors, I knew the Russogans. There was a war, but the class war. I was ready to set the world on fire. I was a teenage anarchist, looking for revolution. Do you remember when you were young and you wanted to set the world on fire? Do you remember when you were young and you wanted to set the world on fire? I was a teenage anarchist, but the politics are too convenient. In the depths of their humanity, all I saw was bonus ideology. With freedom as a doctrine, guess who was the new authority? I was a teenage anarchist, but the politics are too convenient. Do you remember when you were young and you wanted to set the world on fire?
Dougie. All right.
Dougie! Hello, Dougie.
Hello.
I got you on major big screen here.
Check. All right, good. All right, I just sent out a tweet.
Tweet.
We are live.
Live. Why are you compartmentalized on my Skype?
I don't know.
I'm gonna put it on full screen. Full screen, baby. There's the full screen.
All right, I should be about as loud as you. I hope.
How am I? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Hello. I think you're pretty close to me.
I'm
It's
so
audible.
close to you, Doug.
As long as it's not too crazy out of whack.
I'm-
If it's really
I'm so
out of
close
whack,
to you.
then, people.
We're so close.
Why do I got two Skypes here running? This is fucking...
You?
Yeah, there's two icons.
I don't know.
There was
Mine's all whacked
updates
out.
last night. I woke up and it's like, there has been updates to your computer. I'm like, I bet there have been.
Yeah, I know. I try to fight those every chance I get. I hit the
bet
no.
you
Don't do it.
motherfuckers have been in my computer. You sons of bitches.
Such craziness. I don't understand why this is all. I gotta move my camera. You can't see me when I just put you in the candle.
That's okay.
Now you look at-
Because I always forget to look at you anyway.
Yeah, you can't. You got it. You got to do it.
I'm a Sonic guy. I listen to I listen
Now you're
more than I
seeing-
watch. Man, it's overwhelmingly manly. MSNBC, we own your kids. All right.
Let's do this.
I got everything. You ready?
Yes.
Here we go. Oh, shit. Failure to launch. Ah! Hold on, I gotta turn all this music down. Got all sorts of shit going. No, where's it
I
at?
wake up in the morning and I drink from the fountain. I wake up in the morning with the
What the fuck is it?
questions.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Hold it. Stop.
These are good anthem songs, but they need to go away. Alright, so what happens when you have like 1,000 windows in one computer doing it all. That's alright.
I'm looking at a stainless steel refrigerator right now. I'm going to let that go.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, it's not that cool. Here we go.
It's like I'm walking on
No,
sunshine.
louder.
It's like I'm walking on sunshine.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's DOOMCAST number 1717. It's the 20th day of November 2013. My name is Doug Owen. I am alongside my co-host and adventurer in thought crime, Mr. Charlie Mcgrath. Tonight, we're going to get into some of the crazy things in technology and how it is really coming out in consumer electronics and through a lot of other manifestations besides just the NSA and GHCQ that are monitoring all of us. Let's not forget all of our friends in Tel Aviv. Oy vey. Hello, guys.
Oy vey.
And hello to you, Charlie Mcgrath.
Hello, Doug Owen.
What's
Welcome,
up, man?
I am happy that you and I can get together one more week.
Yeah.
DC-17.
As am I. I see that you have taken off the dinner jacket.
I did. I'm just sporting the casual look now. I just finished a video. I just posted right now. Let me plug this video, even though it'll be a day old before most people will hear this. Government lies will lead to mega implosion. That is coming. That is coming, Doug. So that's what pretty much. I know you want to do the tech stuff tonight, but we'll bounce around and I want to get that story covered a little bit. I want to.
We definitely have to hit up the mega doom.
Mega implosion. It's I say that but I mean it. I do really mean it. I want to apologize because I went almost 4 days without posting Doomcast 16 on the website. I don't know. I just left 15 up there and I completely forgot about 16 that we did last week. And 16 was one of my favorites.
Indeed, mine as well. But that's how it goes. I mean, it's going to be one of those cult classics maybe later on.
We're looking at each other. Look at that. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Doug.
Hey.
We're using this Skype to our advantage, this evil technology.
Yeah.
How was the response? How was your response on DC-16, Doug Owen?
I thought it was pretty good.
All right.
A lot of people seem to be getting into the conversation. I think that's when you know that you're hitting on the hot button issues and people want to have that discussion. I can always tell if my wife's in the background and she's muttering things. You know what? Think about because that means that she's paying attention. She wants to get in on the conversation. So that's good. That's good, considering she has to listen to me all the time. So.
Oh, what a burden that woman carries.
Yeah, poor thing. Especially now that I'm not doing nearly as much radio as I used to. There's a lot of things that are on my mind. But, I've found a lot of other venues to express myself. So I think it's through doing manual labor. That's one of the things that I've been doing over the last few weeks. And
that's all. Yeah, that's all out in the open now, right? Your new.
Yeah, we've moved the bunker. We've moved to a new studio, and I'm pulling all of my markers in and getting friends and family to move all of my stuff this weekend. So we're excited about that.
It is classier looking from what I'm seeing now on Skype. That is a classier looking end table than I saw last week.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's not that classy.
It's pretty classy.
It's wooden. It's real wood. It's not particle board. So.
Oh, there you go. It's the real deal.
You know what? It's Craigslist. It is Craigslist. It's brought people together. You can find really great pieces.
It's reunited families.
I mean, everything that we have, all the nice wood furniture, I've bought for pennies on the dollar on Craigslist. If you don't mind doing a little driving and possibly making some new friends, you can find some pretty cool stuff. I know there are those out there that would say, well, you might find yourself at the end of a knife, but I mean, if you find a good deal.
Listen, I've sold for my day job and what I do. I've sold tens of thousands of dollars worth of merchandise on Craigslist. Tens of thousands for everything from lumber. To semi-trailers I've sold on Craigslist. So forklifts, I mean, I love it. It's absolutely great.
Yeah, and it saves a lot of stuff from going into the trash can. So, I mean, if you're into finding some vintage Americana, you can do that through Craigslist. Or I'm sure there's a lot of other options out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of other creepy stuff you can find on Craigslist. But, for all
intimate encounters, maybe some political debate, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe some of that. What are we talking about tonight, Doug? I know what I want to talk about.
Yeah, let's talk about the implosion. I've got lots of other stuff. Detention pods, the TSA I want to comment on.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I had that up on the site, too.
Not only do they touch you going in, they might not let you out.
Yeah.
I don't think that these things can be up to fire code, but
I'm somber. I don't know if you can feel the somberness, the doomy somberness coming out of me tonight. But
Very foreboding.
yeah, very foreboding. Look, I'm all in black, dark
are.
background in it. But I'm feeling this because I did this. Government lies will lead to mega implosion, and I hate coming up with titles at this point for videos because I got like 700 or 1,000 of them up there, and I'm just Doug. I'm staggered. At how we govern by crisis, and then the solution is a lie, and then we rinse and repeat and again and again. And it's staggered in two ways. One, that the average person in the country could give a crap less. They're just not paying attention. And two, that it can, even in our community, how it can continue without this mass awakening that I want, and I think you want, and I think this is partly why we do what we do. But I was reading this story by I was reading a synopsis of it by the Economic Collapse blog, Snyder. He does a great job.
Mm-hmm.
We both post a lot of his stuff. I've interviewed him several times. But I saw this yesterday where John Crudell of the New York Post it has this big expose. He's labeled as a whistleblower because he is revealing to the nation that in 2012, September, we were lied to as a people from about the unemployment numbers, 8.1%, miraculously falling to 7.8%. Did you see this story?
We all knew at the time that we were being lied to. You and I were both very vocal about the fact that the government was because it doesn't take a genius to do the math, and I think most people are looking at the reality around them, and what the administration concocted was anything but the truth.
How do we get across to our listeners, or to our listeners who are trying to wake up somebody else? How do we get across that this September 2012 number, this massive fall in unemployment rate, isn't an isolated incident, and it is important. It is important even in 2013 because we've been submitted to nothing but lies prior to that, and certainly going forward from that, and it's going to continue to go forward until we truly do have an implosion. I believe, Doug, financially like the world's never seen before. I mean, we're sitting here.
No, please continue. Go ahead.
I can't. I got to listen to the darn data.
Oh, all right.
I'll try to continue now that I know that's going to be going. But you look at 2012, a lot of people think, who cares, right? It was 7.8 then. Now we're reporting 7.3. But if we understand, and we need to understand, and we need to get it across, that it isn't 7.3. It wasn't 7.8 then. It's far, far worse than that. In fact, Doug, if you took even the stats, even the metrics we used in 2008 to calculate the people working in the workforce, you could play the music. I'm hip to it now. You can keep it going. Yeah. If you take the numbers of 2008, the metrics we used then, and compare them to now, we'd be at 11% unemployment. Just using the same workforce participation rate as 2008. But since then, we've decimated the participation rate. It's at a 35-year low. And what really tells the tale isn't these stats. It isn't bringing the reality to the forefront, because people inevitably have to dig for themselves if they want to take these numbers and make sense of them. But what really brings it home is if you look at something like the new opening of a Walmart in Washington, D.C., that's a week ago, 23,000 applicants for 600 jobs. 23,000 applicants for 600 jobs. That's 1 in 38 are going to get a job, Doug. That's a 2.6% fill rate or applicant to job ratio. So
the good news is that 10,000 of those people didn't really want that job. They were just doing it so they can get their unemployment check.
Well, you know what? Not according to the government.
Doesn't that make it sound better?
Well, that's exactly what the government's doing. They're saying that 10,000 of them people, that was they either looked more than 8 weeks in a row, so they don't count anymore, or they're just not looking for a job.
Yeah.
And this,
lazy Americans.
That's what it's going to boil down to, Doug.
Shame on all of you out there.
That's what it's going to boil down to. And I know you're saying that tongue in cheek, but listen, there is going to come a day when you're asked to hate your neighbor for the condition of this country, and a lot of people are going to buy into that lie. And a lot of people are going to take it out on people that are completely and totally just a product of the lies and the government by crisis.
Sure. In the more impoverished the area, the more you're going to see that divide. and the more angered people will be. Fortunately enough, I think history shows us that most people, for whatever reason, end up burning up their own neighborhoods. So I don't know why it is. You would always think that people that were rioting in Watts would go to the richer side of town to burn up those buildings and destroy those businesses. Not so much. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen or what's going to be the straw for each and every individual that finds themselves in a very bad way, disenfranchised with nothing to lose, where people collectively have really no future. And that's when things really kind of spiral out of control. When there's when the consequences no longer matter, then that's when people break down.
I agree with that. And if we're honest and we look at our condition as a nation, right? You might live in a decent neighborhood. I might live in a decent neighborhood, and we might grab onto that. Well, it's going to be the impoverished neighborhoods that implode, and this is going to be where the damage is. But when you consider the fact that it's now over 50% of the people that are on some form of assistance, right, of one, some sort or another, that brings it all really, really close to home. And you also take into effect that we had to borrow $1 trillion in the first 6 weeks of fiscal year 2014. That affects everybody. When this Ponzi scheme comes to an end, it will affect everybody. I don't care if it's some TV personality or Joe Schmo who's on welfare. Everybody's going to be affected.
Well, everybody is right now, and I think that you're absolutely right. And it's going to definitely hit people in a lot of different ways, a lot harder than some. And nobody's immune from this, of course. Yeah, I mean, throughout history, different people in different countries at different times have been hit harder. It depends on where you find yourself. I think a lot of people predict that the U.S. and the dollar collapse will hit here first, but I really do think that because the U.S. dollar currently is the world's reserve currency, that will continue to float it, and they'll be able to circulate dollars for at least some time because they are trying to create inflation. And as long as they continue to do this, Charlie Mcgrath, you said, when will people realize? When they don't think that the stock market hitting all-time new highs, almost touching 16,000, is a sign that the economy is doing well. You and I look at the real stats, shadow stats. John Williams does a great job looking at real inflation numbers if you really want to see what's happening. But there's a lot of people that look at MSNBC and what's happening on the floor in New York or wherever it is now. I think China's bought it out, or it's some other country. I forget where it's at. But you know what I'm saying. I do.
Shadow Stats puts it at about 10%.
As long as they can spur inflation and people's housing or their house prices continue to rise and now that's not going to last forever. You and I agree on that. At some point, that's just another bubble. The question is, what's the next bubble? Can you hop into it? Can you reinflate another one?
We are in the last bubble. That's what I'm saying. That's what I believe. And it isn't housing. It isn't tech. It is the dollar, right? And John Williams would tell you that we're north of 10% real inflation, where the Fed would tell you we're under 2%. And there's a real obvious glaring reason why the Fed, the government, wants you to believe we're under 2%. And it's simple, because they can keep doling out money. They can keep buying debt. They can keep buying private fraudulent failure in the form of these billions of dollars worth of mortgage-backed securities and dumping money into these institutions. That's why our M1 money supply has doubled since 2008. So there is massive inflation that is happening right now, and we're being told that there's not. And as long as the credit cards work and the student loans are being shuffled out there, it will go on. It will go on in this this fantasy that this is recovery, that this is economic prosperity. But at the end of the day, when it comes to an end, there's going to be a reckoning, Doug. It isn't going to be, we're not going to switch, I like that, proud movie. There's going to be a reckoning, son.
You will atone. That's right.
Atone.
Well,
but who cares? The McRib is back. The McRib is back.
The McRib, the plywood known as a McRib. I can tell you, I worked at McDonald's for a short stint. It was one of my first jobs in high school. I get to give you some great anecdotal stories about disgusting food and realizing what the hell was in McDonald's. And before I really knew anything else, I knew that the one thing that you didn't want to do in life was eat McDonald's food, seeing it firsthand. And so that was a reality.
So you never ate a McRib?
Oh, I did while I was there, but after looking
really
at
ribs
them,
in it?
what's that?
It looks like ribs. Is there ribs in it?
No, absolutely not. No. You didn't. There was a huge piece about the McRib coming back and actually made some headlines. Gawker and a bunch of other, I guess, sort of alternative sites, magazines picked up this story, and it was this worker showing the pictures of the McRib, and it's just absolutely disgusting because it's basically pressed meat product is what it is, and whatever that is who knows. But yes. Just thinking about it, it's kind of sickening. But I wanted to mention that you were talking about the suppression of, I think, understanding how people really can come to these illogical conclusions based on just basically nothing. This shows you how bad it is. Why did the gold price jump $10 in 10 seconds today? A sudden drop in precious metal prices on the day emerges that the UK regulator is investigating alleged rigging of the pricing of the gold and silver markets. So we know that there's a lot of manipulation. They're trying to suppress the price of gold, and that really, I think, is an indicator of where we're at. When you have to come in, you have to push down on precious metals, when you have to go after Bitcoin and other alternative competing currencies, when you have to rein in.
Did you see Bitcoin? Have you seen it since our last Doomcast?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my Lord.
Flash
crash.
crash.
You have 1,000 of them? You have 4,000 or 5,000 of them?
If I had 4,000 or 5,000 Bitcoins right now, I don't know. That would be a great problem
You'd fly
to have.
me down there. You'd fly me down there.
That'd be a great problem to have. To try to figure out if you can get your money out of Mt. Gox or one of the other exchanges.
Yeah, no kidding. That's
the only problem with Bitcoin. I mean, you might have made a lot of money, but can you get cash out now? And if you will, can, what kind of restrictions are on that? Is that really happening? I'd love to get some feedback from listeners.
I would panic. I would be on every website that takes Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I'd be buying everything they had, just trying to unload them, because that cannot continue, can it? This can't continue with these $400, $600 just blowing up, man, blowing up.
It depends. I mean, China's getting involved. There's a lot of opportunity there for money to be made, and there's a lot of opportunities to make cash, and it's global, and it's liquid, and it's peer to peer. And the thing that makes me laugh, this is one thing I will have to say, is that they talk about all the bad things that are being done with the Bitcoin. Oh, there's drugs and prostitution and human trafficking. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds horrible. What's going on with the U.S. dollar? What is it?
Everything happens in the
90% of them, the physical ones that you can actually see, are covered in cocaine. So please don't tell me about all of the the moral aspects of Bitcoin and what it's being used for.
Ask HSBC. About morality.
There's people that could assassinate Ben Bernanke for 75,000 Bitcoin. Did you see that? That's a story. Oh yeah, that's one of the stories of the week, that people had an assassination out on Ben Bernanke for some amount of Bitcoin, and it's just like, really, that's pretty ridiculous, to be quite. But all of this coming down. I wanted to mention this as well. $8.5 trillion, the money that was doled out by Congress to the Pentagon, has gone missing, never been accounted for. Okay, when we talk about
93, right, or something like that.
Back to 96. So when I graduated high school, between there and now, and let's not talk about the money that is just completely wasted. This is just money that was stolen or black ops.
Yeah.
That's
stolen
it.
Or black ops. That's it. Yeah, and. We don't talk about that. We'll talk about Obamacare or gay marriage or whatever. Whatever.
And people, they get really upset about food stamps, or they get mad about SNAP or some assistance program like welfare. And I think that my biggest problem is not the cash, because they're printing it out of thin air. The American taxpayers can't pay off this debt that we have today. So really talking about that, it doesn't matter. But my problem with too much government assistance is that you then become a stakeholder in this,
Keeping the regime.
Keeping whatever's going that is benefiting you and turning a blind eye to the bad politics and bad policies.
Right. That's right. That's why I said that. That's why I get so mad when I have discussions with, especially neocons, because that's kind of the world that that I'm in a red state, and these are the people that I talk to the most.
Sure.
That's what ticks me off so bad about them is when they play that conservative card. I'm like, don't sit here and tell me how conservative you are when you are frothing at the bit for more QE, because you're every much a welfare recipient as the guy or the lady who's on food stamps or whatever. You are as much indebted to this system as anybody. So,
Jamie Dimon giving back $13.2 billion doesn't impress me much.
Nope.
I just don't care. And it's taxpayer money that he's kind of giving back now after. Thanks for the interest-free loan and, whatever. No one goes to jail, then that's just the cost of doing business. But I love how that people are saying that this is tough. This is tough. They're gonna rein in these wild coyotes. I'm like, well, put some of them in jail. And I'm not talking about some guy that left 3 years ago that was an underling that signed some piece of paper. I mean, nail some asses to the wall.
That's
and
right.
their accomplices in government.
I got a better idea. Take these institutions that are these 0.01 percenters who control 80% of the bank assets in the country. Take those institutions, and this is going to sound really socialist maybe to you, Doug, but these should be at this point in time. These are public utilities at this point. Let's make money public, right? Because that's what it's supposed to be in the first place. We govern of, by, and for the people, determining the value thereof, printing it. Let's make that private. Let's make that public once again. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, I had an email that came in from a donation from this guy who
was it a Bitcoin? Because I didn't see my chunk of that.
No, it's not. Okay. It's from a Zika who does comment on the Doomcast and some of my podcasts on YouTube. He says, "Sorry, can't be more now." So this is from him. Please be skeptical of the privatize everything pushers oligarchy with Liberty Mask. And says, please visit boilingfrogpost.com every day.
Oh, yeah.
Here's a good discussion. And then it has what does it mean to work within the system to bring? Yeah, Sibel Edmonds. So I think there's a great point in that some people that you see a lot of these like Thiel, the libertarian that gave lots of money, millions of dollars to Ron Paul. He's a Bilderberger. He's one of these guys that is a quote-unquote libertarian type, but, kind of a robber baron, not necessarily, really respectful of human rights. And, when you look at some of the people that I think wear that liberty mask, you should be very, very careful to take away regulations that do, at least humanize people in this country.
Right.
That provide us, I think, some regulations need to be in place, and you're hard pressed to find a lot of situations where if the government wasn't there to regulate it, then it would be a great industry. And I'll give you one. I mean, like rhino tusks. You could say, well, the government shouldn't outlaw us killing rhinos. If there wasn't a problem with people just arbitrarily, and that's not even the United States, but killing and rhinos for illogical reasons, then
aphrodisiac.
Yeah, I mean that's what I mean. Crazy people that
Right.
probably believe they're magical, and they'd sell their forbidden fruit to dealers. If they weren't for those kind of people out there, there probably would be no regulations. You could catch as many alligators as you want. So there's a few. But when you look to what government does provide, that's schooling and safety, okay, and regulation. They do a really, really horrible job, and so
yeah. Well, and that's the thing.
That's the problem.
That's the thing. It goes back to the freedom first. Everything should be conservative red state values, and I've had
If
this.
freedom is the answer, what's the question? I love that one, and it really does summate the idea there that free choice, free will, non-aggression, voluntarism are the things that I espouse is a great philosophy. Are you always going to have somebody that's logical, that's going to do the logical thing that is the right thing? No, because we as human beings are illogical.
Well, I mean, you probably have the same debate as I have with the so-called anarchists, and we should have no government or whatever. And that's certainly not my perspective. I mean, I think government certainly has a place, but when you have overbearing government regulation on everything to the point where everything's illegal, right? Everything's a violation in one form or another, and it only applies to the cogs. Or wait a minute, we don't call them cogs anymore because this is the modern technology age. So they're ones and zeros.
Human resources.
Yeah, ones and zero human resources. When those regulations and confinement of government only applies to them and it doesn't to this entire strata of elite, and it really doesn't, man. It really doesn't apply to the Jamie Dimons or HSBCs or JP Morgans. They are above the law. Eric Holder will tell you they're above the law. We can't prosecute. And you don't need anything other than to view at a very recent part of our history to realize there is no crime they can commit that will see them in the inside of a jail cell, period.
If you had billions of dollars, you could get away with a lot as well.
So you can do whatever you wanted, man. You could do whatever you want.
That's the capitalist system, right? You have enough money, you could do anything you want. Oprah Winfrey, I'll sidebar for a moment. She's crying about racism. We need to end racism. Racism is a horrible thing in this country, and I agree. But she is a rich, sickly, rich black woman that has her own media organization. So her success proves to me that it doesn't matter what your color really is in America. If you have enough money, you have a voice. You can do pretty much whatever you want, and you can say whatever you want and get away with it, and people will call you a maverick, a hero, a patriot. In her case, maybe even a philanthropist. She's a pioneer. And you know what the big difference between you and her is? Millions of dollars. And so
probably billions.
She can hire as many white people to belittle as she wants, and she probably does. So it just makes me sick that people keep she's talking about all of the horrible things that happen. And I'm not saying that there aren't stupid people that do stupid things and make really bad comments and bad decisions in their own lives, I'm sure, as well. But really, I mean, she personifies what it means to be elite and successful in this country. And
and I guess I'm not
nothing to do with her skin color.
Right, I agree with that, and she's been very successful, and hats off to her. Great, good for her. She had a following, and she capitalized on it. And you said that this is capitalism, and you're right. It is a form of capitalism, crony capitalism. It certainly
exactly. Yeah,
it certainly isn't. We don't live in a free market capitalist system. That's
always kind of been that way, hasn't it? Though I mean,
to some extent or another, sure. But
landowners and super affluent people have pretty much.
Yeah, but when you take the constraints of the Constitution and slowly whittle it down, and then put that on the express lane, put it in the express lane for the last decade, you end up with what we have now, which is blatant in your face when the Attorney General of this country can look directly into the camera and say, we can't prosecute because they're too big. Man, that isn't even pretending that crony capitalism doesn't exist. It is in your face. We're going to do what you want to do. So this is a form of capitalism, but it's certainly, I don't think anything that like this nation's ever seen, Doug. You might disagree. I mean, you might go back to the robber baron age, or the time when Industrial Revolution, when the JP Morgans of the world were uber powerful. But I think the wool has been pulled over a lot of people's eyes in this country that we somehow function in anything other than a fascist / communist style system where there is the oligarchs that are all powerful, that control government, and the collusion between them is worse than it's as egregious as any time in the history of this planet. That's my take.
Well, yeah, I think so. I mean, Yeah,
I feel
I mean,
smarter for
when
forecasting.
you're comparing murderers and demons, it's really hard to say. Well, I mean, right now we're not doing things nearly as bad as in the 20s. We had eugenics laws, or going back even farther than that, and finding fault in many of the policies that are now, not here prior to the
Well,
Magna Carta and on back, throughout the ages. So
Yeah, nobody
perspective
can-
over 1,000 years, we're doing quite well. Perspective over the last 100 years, that's where the debate begins.
Interesting.
Since the Industrial Revolution, which really, I mean, all of the systems prior, they worked. You can make comparisons, but really, technology has totally changed everything.
Yeah.
And steam. You go back to the age of oil, and the Rockefellers, and as you mentioned, the Rothschilds, and the banking dynasties, and the industrialists, and the monopoly men, and where we're at today. You can say, well, there's a lot of people who could say, well, we do have more distributed power amongst more people, and so maybe, we're not all just going to David and Nelson Rockefeller's schools, but when you look at Common Core and some of these other things that are
maybe
being
you are.
pushed, then you're like, well, but that's that's the argument, right? Maybe we're going forward, maybe we're going backwards. Most of us, I think, we think that there's a regression. But my parents, probably thought that music was crap after Elvis, once Elvis was dead. And my grandfather was probably appalled by Elvis shaking his hips. Maybe not. My great grandmother might have been appalled by that. But my
Elvis.
point is that things have definitely progressed in a lot of different ways. So
Sure. If you, I suppose you could make that argument if you live in a part of the world that is considered the Western economies. But regression is certainly on the forefront of the minds of the people of Iraq right now, or Afghanistan,
Oh, yeah.
or Syria, or Libya, or a big swath of the population of the planet. And my take is we're all gonna get to take a piece of that, a bite of that pie. And like you said at the beginning of the program tonight, we don't realize it because we still have the luxuries that is afforded a nation when their currency is the world reserve currency. But inevitably, that is going to come to an end. So the question is going to be, and I believe conspiratorially, by design. And when it does, we're either going to be all thrown into the same mix as the rest of the third world and then sorted out with the answer from global financial governance, or we'll be eased into it with something, some other form of currency or some other form of governance. It's yet to unfold to find out. But, that change is coming. The form of governance altogether I think that there's going to be a change in the form of governance on this planet that is going to be proposed to us. That, I believe, is inevitable. There's going to come a time, Doug Owen, in your life, in my life, where we're going to be told that this, and I'm holding up a Constitution.
I see that.
Yeah. It's so simple and easy, so quick to read. Unfortunately, we've come a long way from it, where we're going to be told this is no longer a viable form of governance. Where
it hasn't been for a long time. I will give case in point to those that say the Constitution's dead and it's just something that politicians pay lip service to. I agree. It absolutely is in its purest form. Every aspect of it's regulated, whether you like it or not. Freedom of speech, yeah, to an extent, but you can still be prosecuted for telling secrets. You can still go to jail for screaming fire in a theater.
Sure.
the old go-to example there. Sure. And so that's a regulation. You can make that argument. When you look at firearms, they're absolutely regulated. And even people that are firearms and Second Amendment supporters probably want more regulation than I do. I don't believe there should be any regulation. You go to jail, you become a felon. When you get out, I think that you've paid your debt back to society, and you should be able to buy a gun.
Yeah. Well, considering he's more than likely a marijuana violation,
Well,
because that's what most of our prisons are filled with.
That's right.
So you could get lost in the weeds of intrusive governance.
Most
on
people
every
are
level.
lost in the weeds.
Sure. But if you look at basic tenets, right? Basic things that we all have to function in, regardless if we consider ourselves a bleeding heart liberal or a dyed-in-the-wool Republican neocon, we all have to dabble in certain elements together in this economy, in this nation, right? Which is our financial system, right? And then our policy, our military, foreign policy, that kind of thing. So I tend to focus on these, I guess, more macro, the more macro violations of the tenets of the Constitution than I do look at the, am I in a covenant in my neighborhood that is this evil covenant that won't let me have my Christmas lights on the porch?
All right, well, let's go there. North Texas driver stopped at roadblock, asked for saliva and blood. Okay, so you're driving home from work, doing nothing, minding your own business, obeying all the arbitrary laws that you're supposed to.
Right.
Some drivers along busy North Fort Worth Street on Friday were stopped at a police roadblock and directed into a parking lot where they were asked by federal contractors, not even lawmen, for samples of their breath, saliva, and even blood. It was part of a government research study aimed at determining the number of drunken or impaired drivers. Quote, "It just doesn't seem right that you can be forced off the road when you're not doing anything wrong," end quote, said Kim Cope, who said she was on her lunch break when she was forced to pull over at the roadblock on Beach Street. Now, this seems like a pretty clear constitutional violation, just to randomly search people and ask them, even if it's so politely, for their evidence and their papers and
their body fluid.
So, I mean, you look at this, that's the microcosm. That's the things that people have to deal with living day to day in this quote-unquote free country here in the United States of America.
I see that. That's a microcosm.
Very.
I mean, but if you look at the macro, which I started out with, which I'm saying our foreign policy, I can directly link old Jane Doe getting pulled over so she can spit on a stick to our foreign policy. I mean, it is all because we're afraid of terrorists, right? So we got to make sure that we have no freedom in this country. So we have to categorize everybody, catalog everybody, get their DNA, make sure we know where that car is going, where it came, where it's been, where it's heading to next. Make sure we swab them to see if they have any explosives on them or they're related to anybody that might have known Osama bin Laden at some time. All related to the fact that people on this planet want to kill Americans. And they want to do so because we're destabilizing this entire planet, or at least the parts of the planet that we feel are not are getting in line with our corporate agenda. So there's a direct connection between our foreign policy and why Jane Doe gets pulled over in Texas to spit on a stick.
I think so. I mean, if you're willing to bend over for the stick, then maybe you're willing to bend over something else. I don't know. TPP, you're talking about the new governance. We talked about that exclusively last week, which was, I think, an eye-opener for a lot of people, and we got a great reaction to that. But there's more and more coverage of this as the day gets closer and closer, and more people hear about it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, that is the corporate structure. When you talk about fascism and who's creating the laws and who the government is working for, it's working for the record companies. It's working for Hollywood. It's working for General Motors, Pfizer, Big Pharma, and Monsanto, amongst many other corporate, I think, bad actors. Call them what you will. I mean, Johnson & Johnson pushing drugs on you, and not even the right drugs. I mean, you just see how many of these lawsuits have come out. I mean, people haven't even been noticing all of the money that's been stolen, all of the different, just huge lawsuits that I think over just the last few months have come to a head. I mean, all these, I think, huge crimes that have been papered over in just 6 months. It's pretty unprecedented.
Yeah, and then while we're running around talking about pop culture issues, right?
Brittany Murphy and her husband were poisoned to death by government spooks, father claims. Have you followed this?
No, I haven't. Who? What?
Brittany Murphy, remember her?
Yeah.
She was in Clueless and a few other flicks. Well, anyway, she was an actress, and it seems this is where it gets weird, okay? She died of pneumonia, and then 6 months later, her husband died of pneumonia. So her father, Angelo Bertolotti, went and had her hair sampled, and they found arsenic, high levels of it. So basically, the story is that she was a stunt. This lady named Julia Davis was a stunt double for Angelina Jolie, and that that she was a whistleblower, and she was talking about how terrorists were getting into the United States, and that ended up being that this woman was claimed, or it was claimed by the government, she was a domestic terrorist, and she was reaching out to Brittany Murphy, and her husband were going to help her out. So,
Wow.
there you go. That's
Yes,
conspiracy, pop culture, Illuminati.
Bring it all
101.
together.
Yeah.
Listen,
Bring
I
full
don't know
circle.
how we're. I know you had. I know, and thanks for bringing me up to speed on that. I mean,
It's important stuff.
it's
man.
important stuff.
Okay.
But you had some tech stuff. I know you want. I just looked at the clock. We've been yakking away here about anything and everything. But what was the techie stuff you were bringing to the program tonight? 'Cause
Television.
You're my source. You're
All right.
all
Well,
over
there's two things. I mean, I wanted to bring it to the LG TVs. If you haven't heard about it, this is all over the place. Boing Boing, which is a pretty big blog, boingboing.net, that has a lot of tech stuff on it, brought a lot of awareness to it. It's a really, really big website. LG TV phones, home with your viewing habits, names of your files you screen, and even if you tell it not to, it's tracking you. Dr. B was alarmed to notice that his LG TV was showing him ads on its home screen. He investigated and discovered a hidden, undocumented setting to switch off the collection of his viewing habits. Still suspicious, he monitored the packets flowing from the TV's network interface, because most of these TVs now are Wi-Fi, they're network enabled. So he actually sniffed the packets here, and he discovered that even with the data collection off in the setting, that it was still phoning home, and it was still telling the LG Corporation what files that he had hooked into his USB that he had plugged in. So,
Oh, really?
if you had, who knows? I mean, are they going to tell the MPAA or the RIAA or one of these other groups? Are they going to come kick your door down? Maybe not. Maybe they just want to collect this and use this as a way to profile you and sell you custom advertisements.
Sure.
But regardless, you can't turn it off. And, I mean, you talk about Big Brother. I mean, this goes beyond the NSA, and these are consumer products that people, even now with full knowledge that the NSA, the government, respective governments around the world and the Western world are all monitoring their own citizens and turning that money, all of that information over for money to private corporations, and they have private contractors doing much of the collection. People are, I guess, are okay with that. They're fine with that to a certain extent. I mean, there's a lot of people that are upset, but not so much that they're, dumping Facebook. And this is the next level where you have basically ubiquitous listening. You have almost everything that you are doing or saying or viewing, or the information that you're taking in, what you may be reading, being cataloged, and a digital dossier that goes beyond just the security threat that they pretend that is the justification for all of this. So it's something that is in more homes than not, and most people would never suspect that everything that they are watching on TV is being cataloged by the government. I mean, just think about that for a moment. Why does your government and these private corporations really need to know what you're watching? Beyond that, I mean, we talked about this before the show. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, because they want to keep you safe, wants the new cars, which already in 2014 are mandated to have black boxes. So there's an event data recorder in every one of them. So good luck trying to tell your side of the story in court. The box is going to do that for you. But beyond that, they want you to broadcast. They want your car to broadcast its location, its direction, and of course, its speed. So they're not going to start ticketing people right away, but they might end up just giving that information to your insurance company. Who knows?
Yeah, and it all happens mostly right under the guise of when it comes to tracking everything you listen to or watch.
Insurance rates. They have this
the
driver.
Snapshot like Geico, that's been around for a while. No, I'm backing up to the television and to where everything, you see these kind of things optimize your experience and get the right kind of programming and of course for the corporations it's great because they can target Doug Owen, because you're looking at tech stuff. You're looking at different microphones here or there. So all of a sudden, you get all these microphone ads popping up and everything. Every time you go to a site, the Google ads is running. What are you drinking there? Little GMO. Oh, that's the good stuff. Oh,
No,
yeah.
no, this is actually organic, all natural. I don't know if it's Hanes. I'm trying to think of the brand, but it's a root beer. And I got this at Torchy's Tacos. Damn good tacos. See the little devil?
I see the little devil. Damn good tacos.
Damn good tacos. Yeah.
So now that you put that on there, you put that on Skype, and of course you're going to be, that'll be cataloged.
If they market tacos to me, that would be the smartest thing they've ever done. I've never seen a Google ad that had tacos, but if they did, they would be on the right track.
Let me ask you this: these corporations, these companies, they're putting this technology in there, and from a business aspect, right? It benefits them because they can market directly to you, or they can try to entertain you toward your taste. I think it's completely.
It's the full spectrum. Not only are they giving you what you want, but
Right.
they are giving you to the people that want you, and those are the corporate sponsors.
Right.
So
But
it's
you-
not
you
just
admit
selling you. It's also it's not just selling you on it. It's selling you to them.
Exactly. You're saying this in a corporate / individual relationship, but then you had mentioned government intrusion with that.
Well, you got
And-
to. What if they see terrorists? What
Right,
if you're
that's-
watching too many Bin Laden truth videos or 9/11 truth videos? Maybe you're wacky.
Even if it didn't, I guess my point I was sloppily trying to make there is, even if that wasn't the original intention, we need to realize that is exactly where it's going to end up. That's exactly where
It's already
gonna,
there. I mean, we're just now finding out about it. Okay, it was conspiracy theory that the government was watching everything. You were a crazy, paranoid guy wearing black shirts, hanging out in dark studios, like yourself over there, Charlie Mcgrath. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, talking about
to be
terror
the
and
perfect
people-
patsy, all you need is some NWO paraphernalia, and I already saw your pocket constitution there. So
That's it.
You're,
Got that and my April 2010 edition of Newsweek America is Back.
Oh no, that is definitely terrorist
Along with a
literature.
loaded firearm within an easy reach of myself, and a little bit of silver I got sitting here as well. So
Oh man, you're full on domestic terrorist.
yeah, I'm going to get
DT.
a full on.
Full
So
on.
in order, if you want, again, this will take me to the
But
the
I mean,
argument-
this is 1984. This is beyond it. I mean, Orwell is in your kitchen watching
it
you
is
watch.
Fahrenheit 451. It is 1984. It is a Brave New World, all wrapped up into this doom that we experience every day. And most people, just like 1984, most people chant along for the 30 minutes of hate or whatever the ritual is.
Yeah.
Because they refuse to look outside of infotainment. They refuse to look outside of pop culture, and they believe it when their government tells them, even though that it's proven time and time again to lie about everything from unemployment numbers to weapons of mass destruction and everything in between. They'll believe it when they say it's for their own damn good.
All right. Well, that's true. Cheating students more likely to want a government job.
Sure, they would.
Think that's true? Or you think that's propaganda?
Well, I guess, I don't know, cheating student, I would tend to think would more likely end up working for HSBC or JP Morgan or Wells Fargo or Goldman Sachs or a quasi-government agency like the Federal Reserve. That's where I would think the cheating.
Yeah, maybe so. That makes a lot of sense right there, for sure. Yeah, I saw this.
Well, that's what I was going to say. This would, I got sidetracked. You probably have had the email, the comment, or the maybe caller or interview where people claim that I'm just going to get off the grid. I'm going to get out of it. I'm going to unplug. And the stories that you just brought to the forefront there, or forget about it. What are you going to do? Where can you go outside of Tora Bora?
Yeah. Well, you're not going to escape the IBM smart grid. It's all over the place.
Yeah. You're
And
not,
the poorer the country, the better and easier it is for these companies to get in there, and the less you're going to have, I think, at least a democratic response. I mean, at least here, Austin, Texas, you have people that are fighting smart meters. They're fighting these technologies. You have lawsuits. And you might be able to escape, but will your great-grandchildren, will they be okay? Can you live there for a long period of time? Is the world going to be better? And I think that's That's just I understand why people don't want to engage, but really there's only one solution in my mind, and that is to educate our children and to tell them of the folly of political correctness and why free speech is so important and why we should embrace these ideas and show them what we used to have, Charlie, and what we no longer have, and let them remember what life was like before September 11th, 2001. That's the only way forward. If you don't want to participate, I understand. It's a scary time, and there's a lot of scary realities, and there's a lot of responsibility that goes along with it. And but if you want to escape to Paradise Island, hey, that's one of the great things about this country. They'll actually let you leave. Now, if you live in Belarus, not so much. Not so much. You have to go to the wood factories. People hail Vladimir Putin. They're like, this guy, we love him. But when you look at his buddy Lyshenko, who's a queer, but there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, he's kind of a weird dude.
It just kind of slipped out.
Yeah, but he's got a comb over, and he's basically, he's working with China, building a $1 billion forced labor camp city, and people are like, even on my website, they're like, see, look at those Russians, look at Lukashenko, he's doing some great stuff over there, and I'm like, well, so's our friend to the south in Venezuela. He now has the rule by decree for a year, and I was talking about this with a friend of mine. So we're going to get to see what happens with socialism, and if you can rule by decree in the best interest, the public interest, at least allegedly, how well are the people in Venezuela going to do? So we were talking about in Switzerland and Sweden, some of these other
more a stipend just to live there.
Yeah, some of the other solutions to this global economic problem, and some of the responses, no matter how crazy or overbearing they are. And so people are clamoring for that here in this country as well.
Yeah, well, and for anybody to think they have the perfect solution or perfect nation to point to, we're all human beings.
Leave it in the comments section. I want to hear about it. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you've expatriated and you're
which is happening in record numbers, by the way, because
But really, I mean, when it's 600 people, 800 people. I mean, when they say that, it's like the most ever. It's like, yeah, but it's still not that many.
Yeah. Well, Doug, here's the thing.
Maybe it's more. Maybe they're suppressing the real numbers.
Well, why not? They're suppressing the unemployment numbers, so they're suppressing. They're suppressing.
If there was 20,000 people that expatriated last year, would they say it?
Well, the question I always, when I hear these numbers, is where are they going to go? Right? Are they going to Iceland? Because so far they're really the only state that seems to have tried to at least pay lip service to taking on the banking elite. But I think as a society,
it's going to be cold.
It's not that cold. It's not that cold there.
It's not that cold.
No,
you live in Montana. It's freaking freezing. I can't live there.
The stories from the history where they named Iceland because it was green, and Greenland.
Yes, let's not go to Greenland because that's a trap.
Yeah,
that's a trap. It worked well though. I mean, how many tens of thousands of people died because of the name change? They're like, that's pretty witty.
We got you. They have geothermal power. It runs the nation. But I think we as a society in this country are a lot further down the social, I should say the fascist form of governance path, and we realize mainly, again, it goes all the way back to the beginning of the program because of the dollar. So there's a lot of people that are there's a big percentage of the people that are living without contributing in this country, right? And the argument can be made.
Thank God for you people out there. Good for you for not supporting this Leviathan beast system.
They are supporting it.
Oh,
sorry, Doug. You got to take that back because they're being conditioned to support it, as we were talking about.
Oh.
People are always going to sit back and be complacent when they think it's in their best interest. Right?
Yes.
And so how do you do that? You get 50% of them getting some kind of check. All of a sudden, government's great. And all of a sudden, government looks like it can do no wrong. And guess what? As long as there's no end in sight to the amount of money that they can create out of nothing, there is no problem. It can keep going on forever. Unfortunately, it isn't going to go on forever. It is going to come to a head, and at that point in time, it's a matter of transition. Are we transition softly into this new utopic one world government, new world order system, right? That is going to be sold, or do we got to go through hell so we will be willing to sit back and take it, so we can all work in a Foxconn.
Part of my exit strategy is using Delta mileage points. Do you think I can get out of the USA using those points? That's part of my escape plan. I
think you should start digging your tunnel south right now if you want to get out of here.
Yeah, those frequent flyer miles, they're not going to be getting me anywhere.
Well,
cool.
You're going to get locked in an airport if you have.
In the TSA pod,
yeah.
Yes.
You'll be in the pod because we've already proven with my paraphernalia, my ultra right-wing conspiratorial paraphernalia that is all over my office here, and your name will be associated with that. So you're going to go into the airport. You just ain't coming out.
Yes. It would be better if you had a passport that could be blown up and could be placed somewhere. Do you have one of those? That's usually really good to have. What else do you need?
Well,
you need a manifesto, and you need to go into some anti-gay tirade right beforehand, or say something really.
You kind of just did a minute ago with Il Kachenko.
No, but
close.
Yeah,
I'm sure I could find a manifesto. I could probably see, something you had written.
I call them
past.
queer, and there's far less queer people in this world than there are gay. Did you know that?
All right, no.
There is a distinction.
There is. What is it?
Oh, Charlie Mcgrath. Charlie Mcgrath. That's why they have that long acronym. LGBTQ.
LGBT.
They stick a Q at the end.
I wonder if any of the Doomcast listeners.
We should give out a prize if people can tell us the difference.
Listen to me. This is important. This is important. I wonder if the Doomcast followers realize that almost every episode you go into some kind of homoerotic event.
I do, right? I'm sorry about that. I apologize, Doomers.
That's all right. And it just makes me think. I just got to keep. I have an open mind.
Yeah, maybe I'm banging a drum over here and I don't even know it.
Yeah.
My God, Charlie Mcgrath.
Speaking of homoerotic, I want to get a little sports because it's towards the end of the Doom.
Okay.
I didn't have anything else to say about that TSA dome thing. You know what? We're not very far along from. Look, folks. You're going to see these guys, blue shirts, packing heat sooner probably rather than later. They are the force that is just as big and just as well funded as the military. That Obama talked about all those years ago. This is the modern day brown shirts. Not a shocker here to see another wasteful amount, huge amount of money.
There's
being
been
wasted.
huge revelations about how ineffective and basically useless all of the intrusions into our privacy have been at the airports and just in general. The TSA is ineffectual. And I don't care if you give the guys guns or not. They're still ineffectual, and they're not going to protect you from terrorists. And more times than not, the people that are dangerous criminals that are stealing, robbing, exploiting people in airports, regardless of every once in a while, wink, wink, there's a crazy lone wolf anti-conspiracy theorist or theory person, anti-New World Order conspiracy theorist that runs in there and shoots a TSA agent.
With 30-round magazines.
Yes, looking for the quote-unquote pigs. But bar that, the chances are that you are probably going to be touched and abused by a TSA agent. More times than not. You're 8 times more likely to be killed by a cop than you are by somebody that is good buddies with Bin Laden.
That's right.
Or domestic.
Oh my God!
terrorist.
It's got to be higher than that.
Yeah,
it's got to be times is the one. I mean, right?
I don't know. Those are old stats. I mean, who knows? I mean, this year has been. I don't know. It seems like there's just a lot of people getting killed by cops left and right. Maybe it's just I'm paying more attention to it, but
you're certainly more likely to die by a bolt of lightning than you are a terrorist. I mean, so
sure.
This expenditure.
It's not an indictment of police officers. It's just strict raw numbers of people that. I mean, some of those people were probably rightfully killed by police officers, but...
Pull over and lick a stick, please.
Pull over. We'd just like some saliva. Would that be okay? Why am I in the bottom of this parking garage, and why don't you have a badge? Isn't this kind of weird? And there's like one person, that's like, isn't this weird? But the majority of people are like, yeah, you need more? Yeah, okay. Well, you need stool sample? Okay, hold on. Let me roll down the window a little bit more. You need a pubic hair? Okay.
We're so doomy. Listen, because I haven't had enough of your commentary on homoerotic events type of deal.
Yes.
I do, and I know you're a big football fan.
I
right?
am.
And you know I'm a fighting fan. I like boxing. I like MMA. And this past weekend, and now my love of watching mixed martial arts is going the way of boxing. Did you see this by chance?
No. Boxing made a comeback. It's
No.
relevant again.
Over the weekend was George St. Pierre, Canadian, right? Long-time UFC welterweight champion, absolutely phenomenal athlete. He
Elite
fought,
fighter for sure.
elite, absolutely. But he fought Johnny Hendricks, who was the #1 welterweight contender, and he had a record of 15-1. Division I, 4-time Division I All-American, 2-time national champion wrestler. Great athlete, and he's been pushing for a title shot for a long time. Well, he gets one, and this all goes down in Vegas in the last UFC whatever, and just absolutely pummeled St. Pierre, pummeled him. I watched the event, 5 rounds. I gave GSP round number 3. That is it. And in true Vegas fashion, it went the distance, and Hendricks was robbed, and GSP was given the nod for a win. But the last time I mentioned UFC, you said it was a little too weird, guys in tight shorts.
No. I mean, I tease, I kid. I do like it as far as real fighting. I mean, it's the closest thing to actual regulated street fighting that you have. I mean, when you look at just about, I mean, kickboxing, boxing, even karate tournaments, all of those different, while still very, I think, challenging and great sports, it's not nearly as real. Now,
right.
if you're in a street fight, you're not going to get a break every so many minutes. That's why I used to like Pride a lot better before Pride fighting was very similar to the UFC, and UFC bought Pride.
Right,
well,
but when it all started, there was no time limit, there was no gloves, even, right? They just went at it. But I've been in a few street fights in my life. Grew up in a really tough mining town, and I've never seen. First of all, I agree with you that it is very close to a brawl, right? But there's a lot of skill involved.
Absolutely. No, I think that's real. I mean, when
but
boxing.
Who on earth has ever seen a street fight? And somebody leave a comment on this. If you grew up in a tough area or whatever, a street fight never lasts more than 15 seconds, man. 15, 30 seconds, and it's over. So, I mean, these guys going out there for 3 5-minute rounds or 3 25-minute rounds, I can't even imagine the conditioning involved to go out there and just throw down for that kind of time. So. Oh,
yeah, and you see these guys that have been working out for 6 months and in a matter of a few minutes are completely winded.
Yeah.
Just gasping with the, jaw to the ground. You're like, wow, this guy, he on his off days, he's running 5 miles, and look at him. Then you can really appreciate, how much goes into that. And yeah, unfortunately, in mixed martial arts, there's just not that much money yet. There will be, but nothing like boxing.
No, but the whole reason I brought that up is just a little lighthearted stuff in sports, because I know you like football.
Yeah, no, I'm surprised because I didn't know about the fight. I didn't watch it, but GSP is usually a shoe-in, and those judges usually lean towards
and I can get it. I've seen some close fights. I mean,
I've seen a lot of bad calls too, though.
Yeah, Jones and Gustafson. That was a few UFC events ago. Really close. It could have went either way. It went to the champ. This one was as bad a beating as anybody I've ever seen take in 5 rounds and still stand. It's a testament to how durable the guy is. But he got pummeled. If you want to look, you can just type in in your Google search engine, and then NSA, and everybody else will know what you're doing. But you can type in UFC 167 GSP Hendricks and then hit images. You'll see it. He's beat. He's bloody at stitches and under both eyes, across his nose, ambulance to the hospital, the whole nine.
Wow.
He was thumped.
And I'm sure if you go to Twitter, you're going to find a quick metric as to how many people are offended and outraged and appalled by what happened to GSP, and then how few are appalled by $8.5 trillion in taxpayer money being stolen by the military-industrial complex.
Right.
People are
Went
less
right
enraged.
back into the doom zone, right? To bring me right back from sheeple fantasy reality, which I was just dabbling in there, and you threw me right back into the doom. You know what's interesting about that number? Wait, here's what you said that earlier, and you know what's interesting to me about that? The 8.5 billion, right? It's really, first of all, it's close to a couple numbers that popped into my head. Trillion. 9 trillion was the total amount of mortgage debt in 2008. So all of that money could have paid off every mortgage in this country in 2008. It's also 7.5 trillion.
Socialism, so evil.
Yeah,
so evil.
You call it what you want, but it's still corporate control. But 7.5 trillion is the number of dollars in debt that we had to roll over in 2013. And that's interesting to me and fascinating to me because we talk about this $1 trillion deficit. But when you look at that and compare it to the Ponzi scheme, which is the $8 trillion a year that is maturing debt that we refinance, right? Refinance in a Ponzi scheme-esque sort of way, and then just keep on kicking the can down the road. So it's easy to see. People hear 8 trillion and think, wow, how could that happen? Well, it's pretty easy. You start rolling it over, cooking the books, and next thing you know, you're talking some real money.
Yeah, 8 trillion doesn't get you as far as it used to anymore. It's
soon out up to something.
No doubt about it. Charlie McGrath, I think we've extended our stay a little bit too long, a little bit over. I think we are, aren't we?
Yeah.
We got a 122 here somewhere. Let's see.
Yeah.
71 minutes according to the Spreaker, so not too bad.
You guys are all welcome for the bonus minutes there, and thank you to whoever that donor was for the 52 bitcoins they gave Doug Owen.
Yeah, right. Yeah, people excited. Get a rumor going. Doug's rich, man. He got 52 bitcoins, dude. I sold at the height right there as it flashed at 1,000, and I'm gonna buy a Corvette with it and have a midlife crisis. It's gonna be great.
It's going to be great. And you use your frequent flyer miles because you're cheap.
I'm cheap, and my escape plan has a bug-out bag and frequent flyer miles on Delta. So
and an atomic-proof passport.
Yes, and I guess I'm also jaded towards homosexuals. We've learned a lot today.
Make sure you don't cut that out, Doug Owen. The truth's coming out. My name's Charlie McGrath. My website's wideawakenews.com. My co-host and co-founder, Doug Owen, blacklistednews.com. We will see you back next week. DOOMCAST number 18.
That's right. And all are welcome. We love all people out there and of all persuasions. It's A-okay with us. And
Roger that.
Thanks, Charlie McGrath. Fun as always. See you guys next time.
Bye-bye. Doug Owen. I've got to go. I can call Jeff.
There we go. Had to get the out, man. We had to get the out going there. All right.
I've got to. Jeff was sent me an email during the program. I got to give him a buzz and talk about the network.
Nice.